Hello YouTube, what is up? Connor Brooks here with another video for you. For any of you who subscribe to my channel, it's been a little while since I have last posted a video. As I mentioned in the previous video, which was just, running trains and stuff like that. As sad as it is, life happens, people get busy. Since then, I have gotten a full-time flight instructing job at the university that I went to, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. So that has made my life pretty busy. Don't worry though, I still have been able to play with trains, which obviously is the topic of this video, which I'm really excited to bring you. I have to say it, I have a real treat for you guys. We'll get there in just a minute. I'm gonna give you just a quick little update, kind of backstory on how this came to be. And kind of stuff like that. So before we get started, obviously you can see that there is a different backdrop than the normal videos. I have moved into a new apartment down probably about 10-15 minutes away from the university that I went to and work at now. As you can see behind me, I did make a purchase which I am really happy about. Once I graduated back in December, got graduation money, all that stuff. Amazon gift cards though, really awesome, and I knew exactly what I wanted to spend it on. And that was what I call my train wall. I added these custom LED lights to it to light it up, and I think it looks really good. I still play with trains at the layout, the club layout that I mentioned in the last video, but now that I've moved away from campus, it's a lot harder to just go play with them, especially now that I have a job. Which is sad, life happens, I know, but I just got sad that my trains were sitting in a room, not doing anything. I couldn't see them. I didn't know, if people were touching them, stuff like that. It's a pretty secure room, but again, you never know. So I had the idea of the train wall, and I put my trains in them. So every single day I wake up to see my trains. The only issue, and never thought I'd say this, but I actually have too many trains. Not all of them fit in here because I obviously have some at my layout back home. I have some here. The biggest issue is now that I have a job, I like spending money on trains, which is really bad. So they should not have given me a job because I bought this one and 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 the one that I'm showing you, which goes here. But it's okay because every 2 weeks I get a paycheck. So, it all works out. But jokes aside, what I have done and obviously with this project that this video is for, I think is completely different than anything that I've ever done. I know back years ago I did the fictional railroad series where I kind of took some of the trains and turned them into with modeler's license RF&P models. And that was cool. That was fun. They're awesome. I love those models. But this, I think, after having done this, I think this is what modeling is really about. So about a month and a half ago, let's see, August 24th. Yeah, so about a month and a half ago, actually almost 2 months ago, which is crazy, beginning of July, I went and did a cab ride in Western Maryland Scenic Railroad number 1309, previously the Chesapeake and Ohio 1309. Again, another one of those things where they need to stop giving me money because I'm gonna spend it, which isn't good. But I will say it was the coolest, most exhilarating experience of my life. And it's funny I say that because I fly planes for a living, but something about being in a live coal-fired steam locomotive chugging up a mountain, it pounded on your chest. The whistle just ringing was the coolest thing ever. So if I do my editing right, I'm gonna show a couple pictures probably now. Hopefully that worked. We'll see. If it worked, obviously the video is going to keep going. So I went ahead and did this cab ride, and again, they got to stop giving me money because I immediately started looking after doing the cab ride. I wonder if anyone makes this in HO scale. Now, I kind of had high hopes, but I know Western Maryland 1309 wasn't, a locomotive until they just redid it, which, that's a whole story in itself. If anyone knows about Western Maryland Scenic Road 1309, that was a whole show in itself. But it looks beautiful and it runs well, at least when I went on. Obviously, I don't know everything about it, but I know that there was a lot of trouble getting it, but it looks beautiful. So after doing the cab ride, I went to see if there was any HO scale model of Western Maryland 1309. There was not. I was sad. And I should have known, kept digging, but I didn't. But then 2 weeks later, it came across my feed that Bachmann did their articulated 2662s, and I went, wait a minute, that looks really similar. So obviously after doing my research, I realized it's the same body type. Now obviously it's not exactly the same. I don't know exactly what this one is. I think it's an H4 or 5, but I'm pretty sure Western Maryland 1309 is an H6. For anyone who knows things about steam trains, that'll probably make more sense than what I'm saying. But either way, the concept is there, and that is what you're going to see. So after finding out that Bachmann at least made the same type of locomotive, I decided that I was going to custom make Western Maryland, custom make Western Maryland 1309, the train that I did the cab ride in. And after doing it, like I said a little bit ago, I think I bridged the gap between modeling and what modeling actually is. Because this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever done, and all I keep doing is staring at the locomotive because I look at it and I'm like, I was in a cab ride on that real train, and now I just built a model of it. So once we get out there, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what it was before. It started out as a Chesapeake and Ohio white-walled locomotive to what it is now. And then throughout that process, pretty much what we're going to do is I'm going to kind of show you the locomotive, do a little bit of review on the Bachmann 2662, show you the sounds. I custom sound filed an ESU Lock 5. So there is an 8-pin ESU Lock 5 decoder in there with a TCS Wow Sound 28mm speaker in the tender, and then I custom did my own sounds, which we'll talk about there, but it is super cool. So I'm really excited to show you this project, and I'm really excited to show you what I've been working on for the past almost month and some change. Obviously work and other stuff came in the way. I had to redo the tender twice, I had to redo the cab twice. This is my first time ever doing this, so I was kind of figuring out as I went along, using airbrushes, things like that. But I think it turned out really well, and I'm really excited to show you guys. So I don't have a layout, I have a test track, but we're gonna go look at that. So let's get right to it. Alrighty, before you guys ask, yes, I did turn my kitchen countertop into a programming track. Don't ask questions, it's okay, my roommate was only slightly pissed. Jokes aside, so I did have a DCC system, but it does belong to the club, so I gave it back to the club. In the process of making this train, obviously I had to get a Lokprogrammer, which I'll tell you what is an amazing thing, to use the Lokprogrammer software. So that has its own decoder test with all the functions, so that is what I'm going to be utilizing with my laptop and the Lokprogrammer on my test track. Now, if I edited this correctly, when I turn to the locomotive, it is going to be blurred. Because what I want to do first is I want to show you what it looked like before, and then I want to give you the finished product. So, as you can see, the locomotive was a Chesapeake and Ohio locomotive that was white-walled with white trim, yellow lettering, and all the good stuff. And this is what it looks like now. Alrighty, if I edited everything correctly, you should now see the locomotive in all her pride and glory. So this was a month and some change of some painstaking, tedious stuff, redoing, fixing, all that stuff to finally get the finished product. Even up to the tender being red as well. So airbrushing was quite a fun technique. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I do think that it turned out pretty well with a dull coat on it to hold everything in. On the front, we obviously have the 1309 number boards. I did do the 1309 in yellow, which is prototypical. I'll show you some pictures in just a second. And we did the 1309 on the headlight. Now, the 1309 here, the 1309 here, and the 1309 here are all separate decals. This is not one decal. I had to individually put on the 1, the 3, the 0, and the 9, which was very tedious. This one was not so bad. Obviously, it's bigger, and obviously the cab was very easy. These were nice and tedious. And then I had to kind of work around the the shell of the locomotive. I ripped these two, I don't even know what they are, but I ripped these two out of the front here and then super glued them on. And this isn't exactly prototypical because they're slightly different. These are technically supposed to attach to these steam generators on the front. But it's okay, I was just going for the look. And then obviously I did not have the Western Maryland, which I'll show a picture here. So I did not have those decals, so I just put the Western Maryland safety first decals on there. Again, not 100% prototypical, but I'll take it. I think it's kind of cool. Then the day that I went, they had a 6-chime whistle on it. They kind of change it out frequently, so I went ahead and ripped off the factory whistle and added on a brass 6-chime whistle. I unwhite-walled the tires, and then obviously we did our Western Maryland decals. Now, the tender is obviously, I'll show some pictures. The tender is bigger than the actual locomotive itself, but this is the tender that came with the train, so I can't complain too much. It's not the end of the world. There are some slight differences between this tender, obviously, and the tender that exists on the real train, but we have our 1309 on the back, we have the red, and then on this side, obviously, is going to be the same Western Maryland and 1309. Unwhite-walled the tires on this side as well. Then on the top, so this is where the speaker is, we went ahead and drilled some holes for sound to come through. Super glued into the top is the speaker that I mentioned to you about, and then the actual housing itself is the baffle. Then back here, there was a little hole. I don't know if I'm going to be able to zoom in on it, but there was a little hole at the bottom of the tender, right there at the bottom of where the coal would come out. So I went ahead and blocked that with some... I just went ahead and took a piece of cardboard, blocked that, so therefore it would 100% be enclosed and baffle on the sound. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my computer on, and then we are going to go ahead and listen to the sounds. So if I edited correctly, we're going to be switched over to my laptop. Alrighty, so we are now over at the laptop. The train is over there. So I do just want to go through, and I'm kind of going to go through the sounds, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate the sounds so I can show you which sounds I custom added. So I took from Loksound's website, which I will show you in just a bit, I took just a 2662 mallet type locomotive that they had recorded and imported it into the programmable Loksound 5. Then I went ahead and added my own bell. I went ahead and added a custom whistle, and then I added a custom injector. And then I also added what I call a custom toot. It will make sense when I explain the whistle, but essentially the day that I went, the whistle, I don't know exactly. I try to do research on it. I'm not a master steam locomotive, but essentially the whistle will whistle, but then it will also toot, and it will kind of squeal with a lot of pressure added. So it'll make sense when I show you the video of where the whistle came from. So we're going to go ahead and hit F8, and we're going to start her up. All right, F0, obviously the headlight's going to turn on the dynamo. Well, I guess it would help if I put it in forward, wouldn't it? There it is. So it has a yellow soft glow light. Obviously, that is what Bachmann put on their older locomotives. Not like 100% of a fan, but I wasn't going to go through and change the light because I was already scared enough that I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't want to mess the locomotive up anymore. So F1 is the bell. F2 is the whistle. F3, I function map to be my toot. And that will make sense again when I explain that. And then F7 is the injector sound that I added. So let's go ahead and start moving this locomotive, do a little grade crossing sequence, and then I will isolate the sounds and show you where they all came from. All right, we're going to start with the injector first just because I have to keep the sound F8 on. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to play you the actual video, the injector, and that is going to happen right now. All right, now I'm going to show you the injector on my model. Cool. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn off the sounds just so you can hear the bell. So I'm going to show you where that video came from right now. And now I'm going to show you F1. And then I'm going to show you where the whistle came from. Little surprise, this is the whistle that I was able to blow while we were not in operation. We were going backwards with the diesel locomotive pulling us back to Cumberland, so the engineer let me blow the whistle. So I'm going to show you that video, and it will make sense where the toot came from. All right, now that you've seen that, which by the way was the coolest experience of my life, this is what I got out of that. I think it loops together very well. And then my little toot. So I like to blow the whistle sometimes and then push the F3. Now, when I go through and explain how I was able to do all of these sounds, I will explain why I separated the toot into its own function, because with the whistles, you can have more than one exit. You can have it do an exit up here or down here, and it will make sense when I show you on the Lokprogrammer. But I went ahead and isolated the toot itself because I just didn't like the randomness of it, and it kind of affected how I was able to do a grade crossing sequence. So that is some of the functions of my Western Maryland Scenic Railroad 1309. And now the rest of this video mostly is just going to be me explaining how I was able to take the sounds, utilizing my computer, and show you kind of what I did, how that worked, and a little bit on how the Lokprogrammer worked. Alrighty, so if everything was edited correctly, we should be on my laptop now. So if you're seeing this in the video, then that means that I edited it correctly. So at least I got that going for myself. But the rest of the video, like I mentioned, is probably going to be a little bit more focused on kind of showing you kind of the Lokprogrammer and then kind of what I did to be able to get the custom sounds that I was able to get. So first, you have to get the Lokprogrammer. You can get that from Google on Loksound's website. But the big thing that you are going to want to get, obviously, is a sound file. So you can just look up Loksound files on Google. Doesn't really matter. You can even go through just the ESU website itself, downloads, sounds, all that. Or you can just go to the Loksound North American and Australian sound files. Now, there's going to be all sorts of different sound files that you can get. You can listen to the demos, things like that. You can go to Steam. You can search the projects. Luckily for me, the 2662 mallets that I used were actually like right up here at the front. There's 108 and 110 from the Black Hills Central Railroad. You can, listen to the demo. And kind of how it's going to sound. I don't remember exactly why I picked it, but I did 110 over 108. I don't think it really matters. You just download it, and then all is good to go. And then you can open your Lokprogrammer, and it's going to ask if you want to read a decoder, if you want to work on an existing project, create a new project. I created a new project. I'm just going to go ahead and show you. I have it called Fixed One. But even if you open the Lokprogrammer, actually, I'll just open the Lokprogrammer and show you. So this is what it's going to come up. Modify the settings. So this is if you already have a train on the track. Perform a complete decoder update. This is if it is brand new. So that's what I clicked when I first did 1309. Create a new project. That's if you want to create a whole new one, or open an existing decoder project. So what I did is I opened an existing decoder project to play around with it. Then when you're ready to add it to the locomotive, you perform a complete decoder update, open the sound file you want, and then, read it or write it onto the decoder. So I'm just going to do, let's see, I have it under lock. This one is Fixed One. This is the one that I can edit the sounds for. What it's going to do is it's going to say that it is going to open the project, loading the user interface. And everything with Lokprogrammer takes a while. So this is what I have saved as the sound files on the actual 1309. It has the address, all sorts of stuff. You can play around with function outputs, like what each function does, the specific function settings, like function mapping. So you can like play around with, and this is how I was able to like isolate the toot, right? F3, I just made the sound coupler clank, even though it's normally not F3. Or actually, I think it is. It doesn't matter. Either way, you can click, you can change around the sound slot that goes into when you actually push the F3 function. Um, smoke unit, stuff like that. Sound settings itself is going to be the chuff. Sound slot settings. Now, this is going to be really important. uh, I think I just accidentally changed the sound here. Doesn't matter. It's not going to save. And also, I'm not adding this to a decoder. Nothing is connected to the track. If I go to write the decoder data, there's nothing that's going to work. By the way, just for before I forget, there is your read decoder data. So you can click this to read a decoder on the programming track, write decoder specifically stuff, and then this is to write the sound data for when you get into the sound. But the reason why this is so important, this sound slot settings, is because this is how you can preview. So like the whistle, you can preview the loop. Now, when I show it, the only issue is you can preview the loop that you created, but you cannot listen to how it's going to exit itself. So for example, this is the whistle. But if I hit stop, right, I don't hear how it's going to exit. Same with the bell. Same with like the injector. So you can listen to the sounds, which is great, but you don't know actually how they're gonna like loop together with the exit. The only way to actually do that is with the decoder with the speaker attached to it. It's a little annoying because every time you want to edit it, you have to write the sound data, and it takes about 30 minutes to do it. So it's kind of annoying there. You have to be like dedicating a good amount of time if you're going to add your own sounds. So, anyway, getting into the adding of the sounds. So, if you write or if you read decoder data, it's going to give you all of the CVs, and you can manually write your own CVs, but in the decoder, it's going to give you all of these like sound configuration, all of that, but you're not going to be able to edit any of the sounds from a decoder. Now, what you can do is you can download a sound file and then edit the sounds and write the sound file. Now, editing the sounds is complicated sometimes. Like, for example, this is the entire like chuff sound and all of that stuff. I was too scared to play around with this to like take videos from like, you know, YouTube or whatever of 1309 chuffing. I was like, you know what? Someone already recorded that. They did all that. That's good for them. I'm not going to change that. I'm not that skilled. But um, I can change the whistle. Now, the whistle and the bell, they all have it's all kind of like the same concept. So I'm going to open whistle bell. I did the coupler clank. It still is coupler clank, but technically I could technically change it to toot or whatever. And then obviously I did the injector as well. Now with the whistles, there's a bunch of different options, and then each like here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all of the actual like CV numbers. So whatever, I don't know the exact CV off the top of my head, but like the CV for whistles, if it's set to 0, right, then it's going to be Western Maryland 1309. If it's set to 1, it's going to be the whistle from 110. CV9 Western Maryland 3 chime. So some of the whistles are pretty complicated. Like if you double click, let's see, Sue, one of like this one, there's a bunch of different like, initials, there's loops, there's exits. Um, I ended up wanting to do one that was like pretty chill, so I took one of the easiest ones and like edited, made it myself. It was a whistle I knew I was never going to use. And I had a bunch of, and I mentioned that I was going to mention this in, earlier in the video, that you could have different exits. So like for example, the Western Maryland 6 chime, exit 1, right? It could be, which is cool, or it could be this. Right? They're different exits, and all of them just kind of come randomly based on. I don't even know if it's how long you hold down the decoder or if it's just random on what the decoder decides it wants to do. But I ended up not doing that with the 1309, and I ended up actually making my own little loop out of it on how the diesel locomotives do. So if I open up a diesel file. They kind of just do this init, loop, exit, and then a fast exit, which is why the Loksound um, air horns, you can easily just kind of hold it and it goes really quick, just honk, because it has this init and fast exit. And it made it a little bit easier to do the grade crossing sequence with 1309. It's just the way that I init and looped. It kind of just bypasses the loop, but the init is still, enough to where it's going to be kind of long. And then the exit. So essentially the init, so you have your initial, right? It's the initial start. You have your exit, which we already listened to. It's the same one, the fast exit, and the exit is the same. And then you have your loop. Now, some whistles are very complicated in their loop. Like if we go to, like, for example, let's go to this complicated, whistle here, click on the loop. Oh, actually, I lied. This one was rather simple. There was one, I don't remember exactly where. Maybe it was this one. Some of them have like really complicated. Oh, wow. This one's really complicated. Some of them have really complicated loops for no reason. Okay, this one also is. It doesn't matter. From what I found, if you loop the whistle together, the way that I looped the Western Maryland loop, I mean, it works. There's no need for all this complicated stuff. But essentially, it's sound segments, and I'm gonna show you how I did that in just a second. But they're sound segments that just loop together. Um, and I ended up just doing the same. You can see loop ampy. I had to amplify the sounds a little bit. I ended up just doing the same, but um, with other whistles, it's going to be like different sounds. And the people who like actually recorded the sounds, right? Because I just took it off of a video, and I'm going to show you from my phone, but it just mine worked out better if it was the same. But this one is loop 1.1, loop. If we do it, it's loop 1.2, and so on and so forth. So that is how I did the whistle. And again, I'm going to show you how I ended up putting it together. The bell, there's a bunch of different bells. So obviously 1309, there is an init, right? There's an initial. And so that's kind of as I am fading it in, there's the exit. And then there's just the loop, which I just put as, so it's just one bell. So it just keeps, so if I like click the loop, right? It loops itself, which is pretty cool. So I was able to kind of get that one. The coupler clink, it's just F3, you push it once, F3, you push it again. Because the way that F3 is set, it's not like the whistle where you hold it, it goes, and then you let go, it stops. F3 is, just like in like a tsunami decoder where it's, you push it and it's like a short blast of the whistle. So that's essentially how F3 is set, where you push it and then you have to push it again to get a different sound. Then the injector, it's the same kind of concept, which is why I was able to do the injector. It was pretty simple. You have your initial sound, you have your exit, and then you have your injector 1. Now this one I actually did injector 2, injector 3, injector 4, injector 5. So now let's go through and explain kind of how I was able to do this. So a different YouTuber that I watched that kind of explained it used Audacity, but you can use any type of kind of program type of thing, not program, record type of deal that allows you to like edit the sounds. So this is the amp init, which is the amplified initial whistle. I had to increase the volumes a lot so the decoder, you could hear it over the chuff. This is not how loud it actually was, but so that's just the initial. So let's say I want to create a new project. Like let's say I want to loop together the whistle. Um, the whistle is kind of complicated, but let's say I want to. So obviously, let's see. We can open up Chrome here. See if I can put these together so it makes sense. Okay, cool. So I have these two videos. So as I showed earlier on in the video, this is where I got the bell from, right? Somewhere in this range. And then obviously this is where the whistle came from. So let's say I want to piece together a whistle. First, I'm going to record. So now I have this whole recording, and it should, if everything goes according to plan. Yep. So it's the entire recording. Now, I don't need the entire recording because obviously I just want to take an initial, I want to take a loop, and then I want to take an exit. Now, obviously, this exit's a little different than this one, for example, because I went right into this section, but we can still work with that. So I think I mentioned this in the video earlier. If not, I ended up using this section of the whistle and then this section of the tube. Um, and then that's what obviously I did to get the F3 function, right? The short tube. So as I previously mentioned with the Lokprogrammer, and why is okay, whatever. So with the Lokprogrammer, right, you essentially want to create a section. Uh, where is my 1309? Doesn't matter. So essentially, you want to create yourself a section, right, where there's an initial. You want to create a little bit of a loop, and then you want an exit. So there's a couple different ways to do this. First, what I like to do is I like to take the entire audio, and what I did is um, first, I added reverb. So I put reverbance here to 100%. So it sounds a little more. So it has a little bit more of an echo. And then the other thing that I did is I did let's see, where is it? Bass and treble. I like doing bass negative zero point 0.5 and treble zero point 0.4. I didn't come up with those numbers. This was done by the other YouTuber and it ends up sounding pretty good. The other thing that you can do at this point is you can increase the volume so you can amplify it. Let's say we want to amplify it by, okay, I can't do, let's say I want to do like 1.5. You can apply, make it louder, and then even though it's not going to let you, you can repeat the amplify by doing Control R. Oh, I guess I Control R, R, right? You can make it louder. Which, based on what I did, and my advice to you is make it loud because it's probably going to need to be loud. Every single horn that I changed on my CSX 911 and my Buckingham Branch 8, uh, I needed them pretty loud. I had to like come back and change it at least like 5 times. Just make it louder than you think you need. You can always turn down the volume, but you can't turn it up once your lock sound is past 255, right, on the volume CV. So let's say I just want to isolate this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this and then I'm going to split this. So therefore, I'm just going to get rid of this and I'm going to get rid of this. So now isolate and then bring it to the front makes your life easier. So now I have isolated just the initial. Actually, let's make it a little bit so it doesn't have that little bit of, there we go. So now it's just the init and the exit. So then you can play around with it here. Normally what I do is I'm going to split here. I'm going to split the clip here. And because I want to fade this in, but I want to keep this nice and loud. So you can go to effects, you can go to fading, and you can do fade in. So it like fades itself in. Right? So if I unclick that, we'll hear how it loops together. Or not. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing in the back. So let's say I'm going to take the clip here. Okay. And then I'm going to split that. And I'm going to take this effect. Now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to fade out. So now it kind of fades itself out a little bit. So then what you can do is, let's see, if we cut this and we cut this, it doesn't really matter that we got rid of it because obviously you can, undo, you can control Z, right? And it comes back. So if I cut this and I cut this, now we're left with just right? So now we have well, actually, let me go back because I want a little bit of this. So let me bring these clips back together. Let's say I want to like take it here. So cut this, cut this. So there's the init. Then you can, you don't have to do this, but I click it and then export the audio, export to computer, name it something like video one or something like that. And it's going to export itself out. I'm not going to show it, but then you can get rid of this. You can get rid of this. And now you have and also always bring it to the end. Otherwise it's going to save weird. Now you have your exit. Maybe you can make it a little bit longer, right? Maybe we put it, if we join them, and then maybe we like split it here. So it kind of a little different. Um, and then let's say we get rid of this. Now you have your loop. So now again, what I did is I just took the beginning of it and made it one file, and then like I said, and I'll show it again just so you remember. So in the loop, normally you can do like different sounds here. I ended up just doing the exact same sound because the way it looped together, there was too many like if you zoom in, like each of these little like barbs that are up is like a little it's like it's something that like affects the sound. So it'll like loop together kind of weird. So like for example, if we like take this, split the clip here, and we get rid of this, cut, and we loop, it might just like sound weird. See, it kind of like doesn't sound like it should. So you kind of have to play around with it. But if you split it into about half-second clips, actually, maybe I made that one too big. Let's go here. Now, you don't have to get 5 out of it. Whatever you don't get, and I'm just going to show this here because I can, whatever you don't get, you can take this out. Um, so you can cut this, and there, you've cut the sound. Then you can cut this, you can cut this, and then you can just bring this here, and then that will loop itself together. You can do that, but I don't like that. So Z, 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 Z. There. I'm saying you can. So like let's say you've got a sound file and you can only get, you can only get 4 loops out of it. Well, you can just do exactly what I just did there and you can cut it out. Right? Makes sense. But once you do this, this is the tedious part because you have to go and save each of these individually. So what I do is I just cut, 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 right? Export, then Z, 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 Z. Then I go, then I go through, cut, cut, cut. And you get the gist. But remember, for every file, bring it to the front. You'll get that little yellow line, bring it to the front. So therefore, when it saves, let me turn up the loop. So when it saves, because if you put it here, it's gonna save from here all the way to there. Meaning you'll have 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds, give or take, of nothing. And obviously when you import that into um, Loksound, that is not going to work very well. So once you've gotten your sound files, you can go up to sound. You can click add sound files. Now make sure you save your sound files to something that is going to like um, allow you to be able to easily click them. So for example, let's say I want to do, um, you notice I added fun sounds like, I don't know, 13 or I don't know. It was just things. So let's say, for example, like this was a loop that I ended up picking out. So you can click it. Do I want to replace it? Yes. So let's say I replace it. What you're going to do down here, you're going to see, well, it's supposed to, maybe not. Let me just add a brand new one.
let me just add this brand new like loop. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna export this. We're gonna do the video test. So video test. There, I misspelled test. Doesn't matter. So that's gonna export. So now we go to sound, add sound files. Let's look up video test. So there. Now it is a different, it's a sound file. It's 0.725 seconds. You can double click, you can listen to it. Now, biggest thing that I found, most of the volumes are already set, right? Every single sound file that I added is one that was up to 200. It just, you need it as loud as possible. You're going to find that when you add it to the decoder, even though you think it's loud on your computer, it is not loud in the speaker. So you can change the volume that is actually added to the loop. Then, let's say you want that in your loop. You go to your loop, and let's say you go to 1.1, and instead of loop ampy, right, you just go in the list until you find your video test, right, and then you click it, and now that sound is in 1.1. But obviously, I want loop ampy back. So now I go back. It is now. As you can hear, that one is a lot louder, a lot, which is fine because if I go to my block programmer that actually has the I had one, I think, I don't remember. Let me see if uh, I think it was Block Programmer. Yeah, this one used this for volumes. I ended up editing all the volumes and then not doing it under the fixed one, so I had to save it with different volume settings, which again, you can write your own decoder. You can go to sound slot, you can go to whistle, right? I have it set to 255, but you can change the volume or not. Normally you can. No. Okay, whatever. Normally it changed the volume. I don't know why it's not now. Doesn't matter, but you can play around with the volumes. Let me see, that was 190. Let me see if I do this. Okay, I guess it's just not. Whatever, doesn't matter. Normally it was changing the sounds. I don't know why it's not now. Doesn't matter, but you can kind of play around with that, obviously, and see how the volumes are, you know. Okay. I think maybe I have to click enter. Doesn't matter. Anywho, you guys can figure that out if you want to, lock programmer yourself. But anywho, then obviously once you write the sound data, it's going to take a long time. You click write sound data, write decoder data, overwrite the defaults. May take up to 30 minutes. Click next, and it'll write it. Obviously, it's not going to work for me. I don't have the lock programmer set up. I'm just sitting on my bed recording this video. But essentially, you get the gist, and that is kind of how I was able to piece together all of the different sounds for for the 1309. And you can do this for anything. Like when I did the CSX 1309. Right, I just looked up CSX, or why did I say CSX? Sorry, CSX 911, right, with the RS5T. I just clicked on a video. I found this. I like the sound. I went to Audacity, said, ooh, I like that. New, and then I just hit record. So now, right, there it is. And then you can play around with it. Now, you kind of have to go through the audio, the recording device, and make sure that it's going to be recording from your speaker, not your microphone. So that way it records anything that is on your computer, but not your microphone, like what I'm doing now. But you can kind of play around with it. Again, you don't have to use Audacity. You can use whatever you want. But that is what I ended up using, and that is how I was able to utilize the lock programmer to add the sounds to Western Maryland 1309, with all this fancy mumbo jumbo. It took a little bit to kind of figure out and a lot of playing with it, but hopefully this video helped you guys out just a little bit when it comes to using the Lokprogrammer, and you think it's kind of found it cool on how I was able to do that with 1309. Alrighty, and the last thing that I wanted to do before closing out this video was just show you a couple of pictures because I did not record the actual process of me doing the locomotive because I just wasn't sure it was going to turn out and I didn't want to be recording and doing all this new stuff at the same time. So I went ahead and did a bunch of picture compilations and also did some comparisons to the real thing so you guys can see how it started. So obviously up here you can see no shell on the tender, no shell on the locomotive. The first thing we had to do was unwhite wall. So here it is still white walled. I went ahead, unwhite walled the shell and unwhite walled the wheels. First thing I did was I worked on the tender. So I stripped the tender of the Chesapeake and Ohio, added the Western Maryland with the fireball, and then the yellow striping. And as you know, we can see the progress there. 1309, and then the finished tender. And then this was a stupid. It was a test locomotive to test on which red I liked. I did a test decal and a bunch of stupid stuff. It was a shell that I wasn't using, the original shell, so I wanted to test that out. This is me starting with the Lokprogrammer, and then this is me starting to airbrush, which I had no idea what I was doing, but I had a fun little process with it, airbrushing both inside of the tender and then the cab, and then obviously working on the cab until we got to the finished product there. Then Western Maryland 13 or West. What am I talking about? Western Maryland tender. Then I put the cab with the shell, and this was the tedious part. So we started getting the decals on, as you can see, no decals, to nice, super tedious decals, and then I did the 1309 safety first, and then 1309. Now this is white. I will show you that I ended up going back, and you saw in the video, I ended up fixing that, making it more prototypical and making that yellow, which I will show you. But this is once I finally got it all together: the cab, side view, front view, another side view, different side, and then um, kind of a bird's eye view. Now, this is just some picture comparisons. It's not perfect. Like, for example, the 1309 is here. I had to put it here. The Western Maryland here is big because I mentioned the tender is different. The fireball is big. But again, for the most part, it's good enough. I'm very happy with it. There is the cab. I have since fixed these letters. I thought they were a little too spaced apart. I fixed that, which shows up on the video. I re-decaled it, but that's not important. I think this one is super cool. There's a reason why I changed the whistle. It just wasn't quite what I wanted, and I will show you that. Cool. So then I did take this picture from the club layout. I just think that's a cool kind of side by side. And then obviously I had to put them side by side to show what it was and what it turned out. Now, the new stuff. So I did the yellow on the 1309. I changed the whistle. I like this whistle a lot more. Looks much better. Cool front view. And then obviously the finished product. So just wanted to kind of finish the video off by showing you those pictures. I think it is really cool how it turned out. I'm really happy with it. I hope you guys think the same. Let me know if you think that I did a good job in the comments. If you think I did not do a good job, don't let me know. I don't want my feelings to be hurt. But if you think I did a good job, definitely let me know. And thank you very much for watching this video. And hopefully I will be able to get some more videos out soon.